Well, welcome viewers, Reverend Dr. J.W. Morrison, theologist here on the Central Coast, New South Wales, Australia, speaking on the subject of overt narcissistic and covert emotional incest and trauma, mental trauma. For many of us, we go into a relationship with the best intentions, and what is happening out there now is because there's so much abuse and dysfunction and lack of commitment and deliberate undermining and demoralizing of people. When you come along and meet someone and you're actually fair income, they're not sure what's going on. They don't know what to do. They don't believe it's real. They don't believe it's happening. By the time they come around, you've had enough of them and you're ready to go yourself. There's nothing worse than trying to move forward with somebody that doesn't know whether they're coming or going themselves. And this is the problem that a lot of people are having now as a result of the meat market dating sites and the damage that they're doing to thousands, tens of thousands of people. Lust has a way of desensitizing people to the dangers mentally and physically of sex with strangers. The sexual disease rates are higher than ever. The mental health, psychological mental health rates as a result of relationships and casual sex are higher than ever. But these statistics aren't being brought out in the light because the object of it all is to harm people. The more people that are harmed, the more Big Pharma sells their drugs, the more drugs get used, alcohol, all this other stuff that brings societies to their knees. How do you think the Roman Empire fell? On Sayo biscuits and Vegemite? I don't think so. One of the greatest weapons that the enemy has is lust. And unfortunately, a lot of people do have sex addictions relative to their substance abuse and alcoholism, only to find themselves wearing out in that area by the age of 40, 45. Most men are just about done with ED and other problems, and they're really no good to these. A lot of these women on the dating sites are sleeping with the young blokes, only to find themselves used and abused and kicked to the curb, just an object for these young people to make fun of, and it really doesn't mean or prove anything to anyone, only how evil they are. So the moral fibers and the things, integrity and things that matter, where you really want to come in and care about someone, aren't understood. They're not understood anymore. The value for these things have deteriorated. And as a matter of fact, these values now are more valuable than people realize, because the generation that we're living in today aren't sure what they are. They don't know what they are. They're not being demonstrated. I've been with women that have slept with young blokes in front of their sons. I've been with men that have slept with young women in front of their daughters. They've slept with their daughters' friends. I've known men, I should say, that have done this. The drugs that are going around now, the damage that that's doing. There's still a lady in the hospital from 2 weekends ago who overdosed on cocaine with a friend of mine. All this ongoing damage and destruction. Now, I say this because I'm not perfect. Look, I pump the information into my head all day, every day, trying to be a better person. I get up off my ass and do my exercise every day. If there is a woman in my life, I do not let her down at all. And I do everything I can to be the best possible person that she can spend her time with. Unfortunately, that's not reciprocated much anymore. So you have to be aware of these things. But a lot of women are being let down and damaged and thinking that the grass is greener on the other side when it's not. And the consequences of this for them is self-negligence, low self-esteem, bodily ailments, mental illnesses, brain damage, you can only abuse yourself so long before you start to get brain damage and brain fog and loss of memory, short-term memory, and all other things start fainting. People are fainting for no reason. People are dying for no reason. And so if you do have integrity and moral about you, right, you want to look for this same kind of person, because the ones that haven't got it are going to muck you around to no end. And there's other forms of dysfunction that can cause tremendous serious trauma, in the sense of overt, narcissistic, and covert emotional incest. And what happens is you'll set yourself up in a relationship with somebody, and oh yeah, they want the goodies, and so things start to take shape. They want you to be around. They like who you are. You like them. They've got kids from a previous marriage or a previous arrangement. Grown-ups living in the house, which is usually the case now because it's so expensive to live. And the way these places are set up, a lot of these people have been undermined before they start by the parents. I'm sorry to say this, but it's true. Parents haven't been a very good example. And a lot of these people think their identity's in work. Your identity is not in work. Your income's in work. Your identity's in yourself and your life outside work. But again, because a lot of these people have wasted their money for decades on substances and alcohol and all this other stuff, they've failed to put their finances in the proper places. These are the people that will say money's not worth anything and be working 40, 50, 60 hours a week to get it. And it just amazes me how many thousands of people are like this, and they're just going to struggle for the rest of their lives. And a lot of them would be thinking, well, my children look. No, that children are selfish. You've got to understand. To think that you are going to be relying on your children in the last part of your life, if that might be you, if that resonates with you, you're deluded. They got their own lives to get on with, and they will. They will. You better believe it. They will. And so it's your responsibility to set your life up the way that it should. But a lot of these people have had good people come along that would have shared their lives with them, only to stuff them around to the point where they've ended up with mind trauma and brain damage because of the abuse, because of the negligence, because of how hard it is to try and have a relationship with some of these people. It's almost impossible. And once you realize this person's just coming out of the fog and they're actually deciding that this might be somebody that's worthwhile having a relationship with, they'll reach a peak, and then the dysfunctions behind them, the gremlins and the minions, flying monkeys and family members, will begin to protest, particularly if this person's in a position of supply. They're a big supplier to the financial and whatever other means of supply they might be to the group. They're not going to want this person to have the possibility of going anywhere, because they'll be left to their own devices. And history would have proven that don't work, because they can't get by without the supplier, the breadwinner. Just some ice cream to stop me throat from coughing. Now, bend the spoon. Remember the Matrix? Bend the spoon. Oi, oi. Now, a lot of these single mothers become masculine because they have to go out and bring home the bacon for these sons, so that they can be supplied in their habits. They supply them with food. They will cover their bills a lot of the time and disable them in that respect. And subconsciously, this disenables these children, these adult children, to be independent. It guarantees to the parent that these people ain't going anywhere, which is the opposite of what they should be doing. Now, this causes severe mind trauma as the older children, they hit 25, 30, 35, 40, and they're still living at home. It causes severe mental damage to their minds, right? And then they realize that they've had to rely on these parents beyond the realm that they should have. And the realization of this can break their mind. That's why it's abuse. That's why these parents usually are narcissists, because they're conditioning and entraining deep in the back of these adult children's minds for them to be reliant on the parent. And it's all hidden under the guise of, oh, I love you, I'm proud of you, and all this, and they're still no different to when they were 13-year-old. That's the evil of it. Now, a lot of girls will meet these mummies boys, right, and wonder why they can't have a relationship with them. It's because they're in with their mums. They're psychologically committed to their mothers and have to be, so that they've got supply, food, drugs, alcohol, tablets, transport. A lot of these people haven't got their licenses. They've been completely disabled by their parents instead of enabled to get out and succeed. They end up in court. They end up addicts. They end up alcoholics. They end up owning, they say that depression's their depression, or this is my anxiety and I'll own it. They become possessive of their things that make them, prop them up as victims. It's disgraceful. They can't find their way out because they haven't been shown a way out. They've been disenabled by their parents, so that they've always got, the parents have got them there as a means of security, psychological security, company, help pay the rent if they do. A lot of them don't. And when the parents' relationships fail, and they will, they've got company there to fall back on. It's all subconsciously planned out. All of it. And that's why you can't get involved with these people. Excuse me. Because you too will end up with mind trauma. Because as soon as there's unresolved, that's when the trauma begins. As soon as there's unresolved, that's when the trauma begins. And it can take years, decades to get over it if you're not aware of what's happened to you. Hope that helps. This is Reverend Dr. J.W. Morrison, Theologist. Subscribe to the channels. Bye for now.